Hi everybody, and a very warm welcome back. Now today's video is just a little different to the normal one that I'll be putting out there for you all to enjoy, and that is that I am going to be exploring a brand new product, but I'm also going to be looking at a brand new medium for me personally. Now the medium is Casein, and I have, over my many years as an artist, I've explored almost all mediums, and there are only a couple that I actually haven't used. One of them is tempera, egg tempera. The other one is Casein. Now, it was a friend of mine from Cornwall by the name of Andrew Burrowman, and if you want to check out his channel, it's well worth getting involved with and subscribing to. He's a great artist, and he does an awful lot of field work with Casein paints. Now, I dismissed them for a long time. I knew about them, but I dismissed them. But it was more of his videos that started getting me interested in this medium. So it was also the addition of other videos by a gentleman that many of you will be aware of, Mr. James Gurney from America, and he has been using Casein along with gouache for many years in the work that he does plein air. So I felt that maybe it was a time for me to have a look at Casein and maybe splash out a little bit of money and buy a few colors and see how I get on with it. Now it's that experience, that initial experience, that I want to share with you today. So I've got the products and I've got everything ready to have a look at them and to maybe do a little swatch, and if there's time, just to put a few highlights from a video that I'm going to be doing this evening as a live stream to my wildlife art school. They will get the full video of me doing a little landscape painting with this stuff, and I will put some highlighted edits of that into this video if I don't go on too long with it, but hopefully not. Hopefully you'll get me, see me using it. So without further ado, let's get on and let's see what it's all about. Okay, well, let's get this one underway. Now, I've got a few brushes, I've got a palette, and I've got my moleskin or moleskine, depending how you pronounce it. I never have figured that one out yet. But this is a little sketchbook. I have many of these along with other brands too, so I'm not advocating any particular brand. But this one I say for swatching. I've only just started doing that with some of the colors, and I was exploring some of the Daniel Smith granulating colors here and a couple from, I think, Schminker, and I like what the things are doing, but that's not what this video is about, so I'm gonna skip over these. One thing I just realized, I actually haven't put names or color names against these, so I've got to do that very soon. But anyway, enough of all that. I've also got to swatch out all my gouache colors. But today I am going to be playing around by swatching out the Casein colors and just seeing how they look, how they work, and yeah, going from there. One thing, looking at all the different videos that my friend has put out, Andrew, and also those from Mr. Gurney and a few others, is that it seems to be that the color Casein colors tend to stain the bristles of your brush, and it can be a little hard to get some of the color out by simply washing them. I've yet to experience them because, as you can see, they're still in their boxes and I actually haven't unpacked them. I've been waiting all week to do this video for you guys, and every time I get a chance to sort of knuckle under and look at it, something else has come up. So I am literally, I've said, right, enough's enough. I am going to get on with this. And the reason also is that I've got to do a live event tonight to my wildlife art school, and they're going to be wanting to see all this done and ready to go so I can do a picture for them using this product. But a couple of pointers. Now, I'm pretty sure I'm writing saying, you can comment below if you know otherwise, but in America, these are the Jack Richardson colors, and to my knowledge he's the only colorman out around that's making Casein. I could be wrong, there could be others, but certainly everybody that I seem to have come across on the tube have all been using Jack Richardson's colors. Now and because of that, and because it's an American company, I'm sure they're available in all art outlets out there. In Europe and in the UK, however, they're harder to come by. And I, to my knowledge, have found only just one company. I will put their details underneath the Show More tab underneath this video, but they are a company from Norwich Art Supplies. I'm sure they won't mind me mentioning their name, but as far as I know, they are the only people in this country that are supplying it. I could be wrong, and I would love to know if there are any others out there that are supplying Rixon's Casein. But in addition to the colours and a large tube of white, I've also got the emulsion. Now this is a larger tin. It's not a cheap product, but I mean, this I will fill one of these little containers. This is a little lightweight plastic one, and this one is a glass one. Of course, both seal very well, but this does stand the chance in transit of being broken. So I'm probably going to go with the plastic one. I think it's probably a safer one to go with. But that's really the whole of my Casein color setup. Now, from the point of view, how do you use this product? Well, everything that I've read or seen or come across suggests that they are very, very close to using gouache. And if that's the case, then gouache has two ways of being used in terms of it being put on a palette. Now, you can use a dry gouache palette, and I've got one. And you do run the risk with that it will crack and can fall away from the pans that you've put it in. So that's a risk you take, and it depends how awkwardly you transport it and mess it around and do all of those things. So if you're careful, a dry palette will work, no problems at all. I'm a little clumsy, and I have one of these that I have changed into recently, but before that it was one of those little rounded type ones that you could get. But this is a sealed palette. Now this has got a membrane on the lid. Let me just take this off. These are cheap as chips. You can buy them off of a well-known British auction site for around about 10 to 15 pounds each. I think the same one can be purchased off of a foreign auction site that we're all becoming accustomed to for a lot less money. But to my knowledge, they're all the same product, just under different people who want to sell them. But basically, they are a seal here. These are literally little areas that will feed into these little areas and stop any product or material escaping. And all I do with my gouache version of this is I leave it in the fridge. Now I have had one of the other ones, not necessarily these ones, but the roundy one, I don't know what you call them. Same principle, but I've had one of those palettes going for 9-10 months or even longer, and no problems with that at all. Hasn't dried out, hasn't cracked. It's as versatile from the day I first put it in to today, and I've only recently transferred all those colors over to another one of these, and so that I've got something that I can put onto the new palette or the new pochade that I'm building in the future. So that's partly behind that. Plus I can put in more colors in this one than I could in the old one. That's all about my gouache palette. But everyone is suggesting that the gouache is very, very similar to Casein. And some of the differences are that, of course, when Casein dries, it becomes almost waterproof. Now, not totally. I think if you can really wash it down or soak it, and it will release possibly. But after a given time, once it's cured, I'm thinking it's pretty much waterproof. And that is one of its benefits, because it's almost like a hybrid between gouache and acrylics, whereas you can't reignite an acrylic, but you can probably reignite Casein, and you can certainly reignite gouache. So that's what's got me interested, the ability to maybe do a Casein. I can use it as an underpainting for oils. I can do watercolors over it. I can do gouache over it. I can scribble and draw and ink over it. So it does seem to be a very versatile medium. But what I've decided to do, because I can't find any actual evidence that would tell me that I can leave it in an open pan so that it can be used at any time, just like you would a watercolor, because once it's dry, I think that it will become almost impossible and therefore a great big waste of paint if you're going to leave it in a pan setup like you would a watercolor. So I've decided to take the suggestion that it's very, very close to gouache very, very seriously and take it on and put it into a palette that will be kept in the fridge, and it will stop any fungus or spores getting in there and growing and turning the paint, because at the end of the day, casein is a milk protein, so it's organic, so it can be affected in that way, I'm sure. And it will keep it nice and fresh for any time I want to take it out and paint using it. So that's what I've decided to do. Now, it's going to take time to know whether that was the right decision or not, and please do not take this as a definitive way of proceeding with using this paint. This is just my idea, and I think that it's based on sound thinking. So time will tell, we'll see. So I've got a few old brushes. These are just a few old bits and pieces that I've got spare in a drawer, and I may well change my decisions on which ones I use, and may even go and buy a few extra ones from Rosemary or Rosemary and Company that I can put in with this one. This is a brand new brush from her, and that's an older one of hers. But the rest of these are just cheapos, and they will do the job just to test until I'm happy, and then we'll go out and buy a few fresh ones. So let's just put that out the way. Let's just put this on a bit of a level like that. My board is at an angle for my normal painting session, so I've just got a piece of wood here, and it just levels up that quite nicely. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mix some of these up, and he says, let's see if I can get in there. I hate these childproof locks. They've got, I know they've got to be there, but they can be very frustrating. So I'm just going to give this a shake. I don't know if you should. It feels very, very stiff in there. That could be the cold weather. It's quite, people keep reporting that it's got a very, very funny smell. I don't think it's a very, very funny smell at all. There is definitely a smell there. Now, I actually have a friend of mine who did a little bit of an exploration with some of this stuff, and there seems to be a possible, don't get me wrong, there's a possible link between somebody who's got allergies, food allergies like gluten allergies or something like that, with the fact that when they use this they get an abhorrent smell, and they don't like it. And I personally don't have any such allergies, and I don't find it an obnoxious smell. It's just, it is what it is. And I found oils can be smellier. So anyway, enough of that. I don't know if this is going to be fluid enough to pour into here. Let's give it a go, see what happens. I don't want it all rushing out on me. And it's quite a thick, gloopy material. I'm being very, very careful. I don't want to keep taking this tin around with me when I'm out and about painting. There does seem to be some darker colors in there where maybe it needs to be mixed more. I don't know. I think I'd give it a little shake. It wasn't going to move too much, but it's just taken an eternity to pour out. But I don't want to go too mad and end up with half of it on my painting table. And probably I don't need to put so much out that I fill this up. It may sort of go off in a way over a period of time, so I'll probably leave it at that. We've got enough in there to go out painting with, and I think that's plenty of it. All right. Put the lid on carefully. We'll put this away safely for another day. And put the lid on this so I don't go and knock it over. But there we are. So that is the emulsion that they call it, an emulsion. But it's just the casein resin that you can actually mix with the paint, I guess. and extend it or make it work so it's not purely water that you're using to make the paint thinner. You're using some of this. It's a little bit like using an extra binder, flow aids and stuff like that with acrylics. You can do that, and you can replace some of the water you would be using with binder, with emulsion. And at the end of the day, that's exactly what this is. Okay, so the colors, what colors did I buy? I had a little bit of fun, and I probably spent way too much, but hey, you only live once, huh? You've got to have a bit of fun. So I'm going to put these out as best I can. I don't need the brushes here, so I'm not sure how these will sit on here at an angle, but they're not coming out in any particular order. But it's fun. I do love this part. As long as I've been painting, I still get a real buzz out of looking at new art supplies. And like I said, I don't normally do art haul videos. There are an awful lot of people out there, as I said earlier, that do a very, very good job of that. You don't need somebody else doing it as well. But on this occasion, I'll make an exception. Because I love opening up boxes of art. Even after all these years, I love lovely surprises, lovely supplies. Now, I don't know exactly all the colours that I did order. Probably way too many for my needs. I think there are a total, including the white, of 19, so they will sit in here quite happily. I'm going to put them in some sort of order. More paint, more paint, more paint. It's all good stuff. Okay, and the last 3 colors that I purchased. Now they did come, the company that I bought them from I've already mentioned. If they are the only company out there in the UK and possibly in Europe, I don't know, but certainly in the UK, they came well packed. They came very fast, and they came extremely well packaged, and that was really nice to see. All right, so there are the colors. I'm going to quickly play around with these and put them into an order that I would normally put into a palette, and that is my darkest colors, my earth tones, followed by my greens, my blues, my reds, and my yellows. Lastly, the big one, the white one, which I will take out here. And there's my large white. Now, they do come over somewhat a little bit folded sometimes, I've been told, and they feel quite so pliable. You know, they don't feel stiff at all. They feel very, very liquid inside. I'm sure that's just the way it is, but I mean, that's how they seem, that's how they come across. Okay, so first things first then, we're going to swap a few of these out. This is how I would pretty much arrange my palette. I decided to go for raw umber this time instead of burnt umber. I may leave a gap here to take the burnt umber if I feel the real need for it, but it doesn't hurt just to leave the odd gap for color. So coming out from there, I will go for my, they call it Shiva green, but it's a phthalo green, and I would then go for my chrome green, and this is chrome of oxide. It's quite a pale green. I may even at some point buy Viridian. I'm not sure if I saw that in the color list. And then I'm going for the phthalo turquoise, and from there we're going to come into phthalo blue. Actually, that's not in the order I normally do. I normally go for ultramarine, my cobalt, then my phthalo, and then possibly one that I don't normally have is my ultramarine violet. I have that as a watercolor, but not in any other media. So from there, actually, that's one that should be there. And I've missed a few out. There we go, light red. Just make a few gaps. There we are, push and squeeze them in. So that's the line. That's all my earth tones going to my yellow. And then I'm going to go into my rose red, my cadmium scarlet, cadmium orange, cadmium yellow light. There didn't seem to be a cadmium lemon. So I've gone for the cad yellow light, and then finally my white. So that's what my color palette would normally look like, with a few extra additions. Now there are only 19 here, there are 24 slots, so I've got room to add a few more in if I want to. But let's just squeeze some of these out. Let's just see the consistency in the tube and see what we're dealing with. Well, that feels quite stiff, and I'm sure there's nothing wrong with that. I don't want to go too mad, so I'm going to put a bit out there. And that's the same smell, and it's not unpleasant at all. I have had people suggest that it's very sweet, and other people say it's quite obnoxious on the videos that they put out. But it's a personal thing. I'm not filling these up. I'm going to leave a gap for burnt umber, because I've got a feeling that that may well end up going in there. So I'm going to put in raw umber. I can always squeeze more in. What I'm doing is just putting a few bits and pieces in, just to see if this is the right way to go, or whether indeed an old-fashioned pan palette would be the answer in the long run. So that's why I'm not squeezing too much in, but more than enough to do some paintings with. So I'm going for, oh, now there's a lot of binder coming out of that one. Okay, so we don't want that on its own. So if you do get that where it's been sitting on a shelf somewhere in a box, try and work the two together, or and get a coffee little piece of wood, you know, the toothpick, something like that, and just open the lid and work it around. I don't think I actually have one of those to hand, so I'm just going to work this together for a couple of minutes. I'll come back to you when we're done. Okay, I don't have a cocktail stick, but I do have the other end of one of my drawing matchsticks, so I'm just going to literally play around with that. Try and mix it. I don't want all the binder to come out, because if you do release off a lot of binder from a tube of paint, you could end up having quite a stiff paint as a residue at the end of that. So try and mix a little bit together. Not a great deal is going to be lost. And then just put some in there. I can't replace the binder that's come out, but I'm sure that will be fine. Okay, so that's the English Light Red, which is a really lovely terracotta color. Now for my burnt sienna, I'm just going to check before I squeeze that that's fine. So there's nothing wrong with that one. There's some burnt sienna going in there. Okay, so this is the palette, and I love the colors and I love the way it's set up. There are a few spots, as I've said, and if this video has gone on quite a while, I may well have sped that little bit up where I've just poured all these in place, but depends. I want to get these swatched now, and we're going to see how they all look on paper. Okay, so there we go with our colors. This is the book. It's ready to go. I'm going to get rid of that matchstick. That was interesting, because it's the only time I actually needed that matchstick was just to mix up the one colour. Okay, I'm just going to use a very simple brush for this process and go across as many pages as I need. The thing about Casein light gouache, it does dry quite fast. So I think that you still got a lot of working time with it, but I think it dries quite fast. All right, so I'm going to come in with some black. I do not know how this is going to go. I'm just going to put some neat colour on the top here. And then I'm going to add a little bit of water to that, just see how that works. I think I picked up another colour there somewhere. Not sure. Yes, I did. I picked up a little bit of English Light Red that was on the rag, so be careful of that. I like that. Okay, I'm going to leave a little gap for that burnt umber, which I'm sure I'm going to be buying. So we're going to leave a gap. We're going to come across here to the raw umber. I'm going to add some more water to that and let that come down. See how that looks. It is also obvious that it does hold a shape, so you can actually put this on with some brush marks and let those dry. It's quite interesting. Let's come across to our English light red now. Lovely colour. Some more water, let that flow. You can see a lot of the pigment suspended in the water, so I've heard that you can get a situation where you get these blotchy marks by the addition of water, and maybe if you were to use the resin that you can buy in addition to too much water, I think you can dispel some of those ideas and have more of an even coating. But I am just swatching colour, so I'm not overly worried, but it does hold up really nicely, the thickness. Just let that come down. I'm going to come in with the other, so you can see how that ochre and all these others are just allowing the colour to sit on top and show the brush marks. And finally we're going to come across here to our yellow ochre. Now that does possibly feel a little more fluid. Maybe it's because I had too much water in the brush, who knows, possibly. I come down here. Okay, so we've done all our earth tones. Let's come into our phthalo green, the very aggressive green. Look at that. Now that is naturally a transparent colour, and it does hold in the brush quite a lot, but this, albeit not a blonde bristled brush, it would still show a lot of the pigment, and there is just a little bit of the green holding into the filaments there, but it's certainly not staining it as people have suggested. So I'm going to come in here. Oh, I didn't do that. I'm just going to put that one there quickly, put some color into this, bring that down, clean our brush with some water in there, and look how that is such an aggressive green. Just goes on forever and ever and ever. But you can see the difference between the two greens. Really quite a nice one. And you could actually make an additional color of Viridian if you wanted to. Yeah, this is the phthalo turquoise. It's quite a lovely deep turquoise. And let's just see what happens when you add some more water to that and thin it down. I think that's got a potential. What I might do later on when I get more time is to maybe swatch out these colors, but with the addition of white, and see how that goes. I'm going to have to wait until this thoroughly dries, but my next color is going to be my ultramarine blue. Beautiful, beautiful color. Okay, so just mentioning a couple of things about the drying time before I move on to the next page. This has been drying now probably for about 20 minutes, something like that. Now I've got to say that this part here, all of this thinner, watery color that I put down was dry very, very quickly. No different to maybe the gouache. It's only a few elements of the very thick paint that I put on is still holding a bit of moisture. So what I'm going to do, they're going to hold that over like that, but I'm going to hold this page up so that the two do not touch. And then I'm going to allow myself to carry on with mixing some of these colors down. So the very next color is my cobalt blue, and I'm going to put that on there, very, very thick again, and put some into into there, trying to hold this above but not too flat. I want that still to flow down. There we go. And then I'm going to come into my phthalo blue. Very, very impressive blue, and you can see how using the phthalo blue along with the phthalo green, you will probably end up with the phthalo turquoise, which is what I did on the other side of the page. Now the phthalo is a staining color, and it will therefore take a little bit more to get it out of your brush. but I don't think it's adversely affecting the bristles, as I've heard people say. So let's come into this one, which is the Ultramarine Violet. I'm quite interested in how this one works. And I think already I'm quite keen on it. I quite like it. I think that's quite a lovely violet in there. And you can see how you can play around with that colour with some whites and maybe some of the next colour we're going to employ, and see how that goes. I'm going to leave a little gap there for this one, whatever may or may not go in there. Probably nothing, but we'll see. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to leave that gap, and I'm going to come through here. This is the lovely red, the darker red, the cooler red that we've got. And I will put all the names of the list in the Show More tab, so you have a reference to the colours that I'm using. That's really a beautiful pinky rose colour, as the name suggests. Let's come in with our vibrant red. Now I'm going to put it in there. I'm sure I can get away with that. Okay, wash that out, bring that down. We've got a lovely red colour with this orange. Nice thickly put on. Wash that down. That's a lovely strong cadmium orange. And then we're going to come in with the cadmium yellow deep. I'm going to wash that down. Beautiful. Really punchy colours, lovely colours, got to say. And the last one is the cadmium yellow light. You can see the difference between the two. One is very much more lemony than its sibling, as it were. So you've, in a sense, you've got a warm yellow and you've got a cool yellow, and you can do an awful lot of work with those two without having to buy any others. Now I've got a couple of places left, and what I want to just try out, two things. I want to try that lavender, or what I'm calling lavender, this ultramarine violet colour with a bit of white in that. And I'm also going to do the same with that turquoise, just to see how white may affect the colour overall. So what I'm going to do, so I don't spoil my white, so I'm going to put a little punch of white there and another punch of white just there, and I'm going to come in with some of that phthalo turquoise to start with. Let's just mix the two together and see how automatically the becomes a lot more opaque, but I think that's pretty. I quite like that. It's not quite the same as the cobalt teal that I've seen in other medium and those that I use, but there, where's the other one? This one here. This is that lovely bit of violet. Let's see how that performs with white inside. It's pretty. I mean, you can see what it's like here, but with the addition of white in there, I think you've got a nice opaque violet colour. Great for some shadows and some distant colours. You can mix some of this with some of the siennas, raw sienna, yellow ochre, and get some beautiful distant shade colours, some distance greys for hills and other things like that. So I think it's got a lot going on for it. So I've run out of room for doing any more swatching at the moment, and I think I've done enough to demonstrate all of this to you, certainly the colours that I have just purchased. Now there are other colours in the range that you can buy, and additionally there are two sets, I believe, on the market from a well-known auction site. If you didn't want to buy individual colours, there is a couple of starter sets, I think for about £35–36 for one, and about, I don't know why, but £60 or so for the other one. Probably the colour pigments in that one are more expensive, so that's why it costs a bit more. But if you just wanted to try this out, then I'm sure you could just buy one with the primary colours in, maybe get a black and a white on top, and allow yourself to have a bit of fun and experiment with this. I'm not pushing it, I'm just simply saying that if you didn't want to spend the sort of money that I've just spent out on these, you can get into it relatively inexpensively, and I know a few of my friends already have. So that's that. Now, one thing I keep forgetting to say, I keep thinking about it and don't mention it, but it's got to be said that this medium, this Casein, is the oldest known medium that you can come across. It goes back many, many thousands of years, 10s, 20, 30,000 years. And it's in certain cave paintings, I understand, in Australia. I don't know for sure. It's just what I've heard, what I've read. But it is certainly one of the oldest, if not the oldest medium that you're going to come across. And it's totally organic. The only thing that is different is the pigment. Now the pigment is the same whether you're buying an oil paint, a watercolor, or a gouache, or a pastel, or Casein. The pigment does not change. It goes from a unographic color number, whether it's a PY or PB or any of these other terms. They are the color recognition devices that will say whether it's a blue or a brown or a yellow or a red of a certain type. It's the binder that makes the paint medium. So it's in oil, you've got linseed oil, walnut oil, things like that. In watercolor, of course, you've got the it's gone, my mind's gone, but you know what I mean, that one, gum arabic, there you go. And you've got this milk protein casein in casein paint, and that's why it's such a delicious prospect. So I'm going to wind this video up now, and I think I've done enough. I think you've seen enough in this one, and if I look back and I feel that it's long enough, that's fine. If it's not, I will add a bit of a video, as I said earlier, from my live stream later on today, and I will show a little bit of that in this one, or indeed I might just make a smaller video to follow on behind this one and show you how casein looks when it's being applied in a painting situation. And I'll also look at this in the future and do a little update video a few months down the road, just to show, or at least give you an idea of how using it, how I feel about it, and would I have changed anything that I've shown you today? Would I have altered the colors? Would I have bought a different color? Would I have put it into a different palette setup? I don't know. It's all trial and error. And so what I'm saying to you now, you can try and you can evaluate it on your own, I'm sure, and see how it works for you. But I'm really quite excited about it. I think it's going to be really nice moving forward, and I'm going to enjoy making some work with it. And I'm also going to be enjoying adding gouache and other media over the top, whether it's an oil, whether it's watercolor, whether it's gouache, even if I use some pastels, oil, it doesn't matter. The ability there is in the product itself. I can put it down as a backing color, I can do it on paper, I can do it on prepared gesso board. So many different uses to employ this, and one of the biggest things I think is that I can travel much lighter and much more efficiently when I'm out doing plein air without carrying all the oil paints with me and all that stuff on my back. I can just go much lighter, I think, with casein, with a little gouache pack, and just enjoy it and see what happens. Anyway, I am rambling, but I'm going to catch you all in the next video. And so enjoy this one, and let me know in the comments if you use casein, if you have used it or you stopped using it, why you may have stopped using it, any thoughts you've got. Yeah, just give me some idea. I'd love to have other people's opinions on this product. And I thank my friend Andrew again. Go check out his video, and also Mr. Gurney as well for his input over many years of painting. One thing I will just end with is that I have not found any smell on this to be obnoxious at all. It's a not unpleasant smell. It's not a beautiful smell, but it's certainly not an unpleasant one. Not one that I can think, oh dear, nothing like that at all. In fact, I got some on my fingers. It's not unpleasant at all. I can't think what it is. It reminds me of something, but it's not unpleasant. So with all that said and done, I'm going to catch you all in the next one. Take care. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and watch some other videos. Comment on this one. Above all, don't forget my lovely schools over on school.com. One is paid, one is free. Get involved. Love to see you there. Catch you all soon. Bye-bye.